Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Autistic Voice Project. As always, coming from the Louisville area, I'm Matt Lowry, LPP.
And I'm Erin Findlay Saidi coming to you from Napa, California.
And today we have a special guest, a friend of mine personally and a friend of the show, Maisie Soetantyo. Did I pronounce your name right or did I mangle it?
Oh, you were very close. It's
Oh, oh,
Soetantyo.
sorry about that. Soetantyo.
That's okay, Soetantyo, right?
Tell us who you are and why we are friends and what
Yeah.
kind of stuff we are going to be talking about today. Because,
All right.
I know you for many reasons. We've been doing trainings for a very long time together. We're working on a book,
Mhm.
but tell us kind of stuff. What we're going to cover tonight. On this episode that people might be listening to in the future.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening to this podcast. My name is Maisie Soetantyo. I am an openly autistic, multiply divergent advocate. I am an autistic parent. I'm a curriculum designer, and also I'm a certified customized employment specialist. So I basically keep starting and keep training myself when I feel like, okay, I need to learn more about something. And I'm pretty convinced that if I'm not autistic, I'm not going to be doing this,
Yeah, because
path.
you keep collecting all of the skills.
Yeah, I really enjoy working with autistic people. I've been working with autistic people for over 30 years, starting at UCLA when I was working under the Young Autism Project at UCLA, which is where applied behavioral analysis, intensive at home intervention started at UCLA over 30 years ago.
Well, with a
So,
man
mhm,
named Ol Ivar Lovas, who
right.
believed that autistic people were not human, and also wasn't too fond of the gay people either. And he also his methods also helped create gay conversion. So and I'm guessing that you didn't know that you were autistic at the time. Uh,
No, I did not.
tell me how you got into that program, and at
Mhm.
what point did you say,
Yeah.
"Wait a minute," and you decided to
Right.
do
And
your
get
own
out of
thing?
it.
Yeah. So I've always liked being around kids. They always make me smile. So I knew that I wanted to go into psychology. Uh, Partly because in psychology we only had to do statistics, and I have dyslexia, dyscalculia, so I just couldn't pass.
As is the
And
way.
so the silver lining was that, okay, I could do psychology. That's interesting, right? So I wanted to work with kids, and while I was exploring that neurodivergent population, I had to work in an neurodivergent a preschool for neurodivergent kids, or working with neurodivergent adults, basically. So I, of course, chose to work with neurodivergent kids, and that's how I got connected. So in that classroom, there were many autistic kids who also happened to be a client, or they were part of the research project uh, with uh, Dr. Lobas. So that's how I got started. And, I think at the beginning, of course, I thought that this is the best training ever, because these people must know what they were doing, and we we were
We
able to
assume, yeah.
we were we were
Yeah.
able to we were able to see visible changes. Well, I mean, we all like to see visible changes, right? So if an autistic kid wasn't able to sit down before, with some intensive training and repetition, then look, they can sit down now. And at that
Mhm.
point, we were thinking in order to learn anything, a person must be able to sit still with the hands on
Yeah.
neatly
Yeah.
folded on the table. Otherwise, it's like a no-go as
Yeah.
far as
Making
learning,
eye
right?
contact and not flapping hands is a sign of
Right.
attention. And
Right.
yeah.
Hashtag
Because,
not.
Yeah.
I was what, 19, I really wanted
So you were
to,
a kid.
I,
Yeah.
I wanted to make a difference because I love
Yeah.
working with kids, and uh, with, with neurodivergent kids, I wanted to really make a difference in their lives because I know they struggled very, very early on, right? Not just autistic kids. I work with all kinds of neurodivergent kids. And then, I moved my way up. I was really good doing, working with kids as an ABA therapist. I think I was good because I actually struggle following that formula. Like one example would be taking the data, right? Oh my God. Like you're supposed to remember how many trials you do, right? And then nothing ever went smoothly because you're actually
Because life.
interacting with a little human being,
Yeah.
and they never really respond according to what's written on the
No kidding.
You mean
instructions.
children don't respond according to the
No,
manual?
no, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So my autistic dyscalculic brain just couldn't remember. Oh, was that 7 out of 10, or was it like, what was that? How many was prompted? But honestly, I just, of course, I just like did my best, and I think it looks to me and to that the team of each family that those kids were making huge progress or some progress
On the
right?
surface.
So on the surface, like just what our eyes could see. However, we didn't know at that point that to teach anyone mindfulness and being able to connect and relate and communicate with other people, including their own family members, teaching them through repetitions without context, even if you dangle the right kind of carrot, not just a carrot, it has to be the right kind of carrot, that's not going to be enough because in order to connect the dots, they have to know who they are as a person. Even little kids.
Even little kids are people?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Fancy that.
That's crazy talk, Matt.
So I think within that therapeutic room, even though all the therapists were prescribed certain protocol that we have to comply when we're working with our clients, I still did my own thing. Meaning, as soon as that was done, as soon as the eye contact was done, I'm like, drop everything. Let's go play with the train. Let's go, take a walk and swim.
I love it.
Because that's just
You rebel.
I'm autistic with ADHD. Because it's like I can't sit still. Can you sit still? No. Okay, we're done with that. I checked it off. Let's move on to something fun.
Nice.
So actually, I am, believe it or not, I'm still connected to my very first case. That first kid, autistic kid.
Yeah.
That I started. That this is how, he was such a blessing to me because he was the reason that I wanted to dive deeper into this field of working and supporting, autistic kids. And so we remain connected. Every Mother's Day, every Christmas, he would text me first. He would say, "Hey, happy Mother's Day," and blah blah blah. So I followed him. He was very open about his journey as an ABA kid and what happens after that. That he was one of those kids who appeared to make leaps and bounds through ABA.
Once
right?
again, appeared.
Right.
Right, exactly. So he actually, at some point we met in person, and he was telling me that uh, he wished he didn't go through. He wished that he had gone through a different pathways in terms of learning about the world and learning about himself. That part, learning about himself as a human being, it didn't come until much later, until he met a therapist who can help him figure all that out, right, as an autistic individual. And it was very traumatic, of course, all the different kinds of therapies, all these adult guides who were telling him to behave differently, and it was very traumatic, and it was very, very sad. So, but he was open about it, right? So I think what when I talk to college students who are exploring ABA, of course, I would just say, oh, well, there are other things you could do, not just ABA. You may be reading a lot more about ABA, but remember, I always say it's not about all these trainings. It's really about why you want to be here for neurodivergent people in the first place. So that why is very important. And at the end of the day, regardless of your training or the methods, you feel like this is my area of expertise. At the end of the day, you have to be yourself as well.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
knowing who you are and your strengths, and how you can pass along those strengths and your positive traits to the other person in the room with you, right? So it's not, I think the best therapists are like that, because even though we have these other bells and whistles, we have the certification or training, it's not enough.
No.
Right? So I think I'm still connected with my first client, because not during the repetition that sitting on that small table, but it was because what we do outside of that to really connect. I used to babysit him, and I was part of the family in a sense, because my parents were not here. So all of these, my clients' families, they became my extended family. So I don't see them as a kid I do therapy with. I see them as like, this is like my little brother. This is, I will do anything to protect them, and that's actually what carries us through these years. And I tell therapists also, well, what kind of memory do you want your client to remember of you, someday?
And this is a big thing, because I've met a lot of autistic people who were, like you, sucked into the ABA industry because they wanted to help kids, and they resonated with autistic kids, and they may or may not have known that they were autistic at the time, which is why they made this career path. But neurotypical people, or the majority of ABA people, go into this with this sort of like colonizer savior thing, to say, ah, yes, I will turn you into a human being. I will fix
it's the
you.
whole Pygmalion complex.
Yes, very much so. Yes. And that's a very, very different approach that you had in resonating with the innate humanity that this kid had. Because if there's already a little human in there, once again, who knew? Resonating with the humanity of the client, and that's where the therapeutic relationship comes from. That runs counter to the theory behind ABA, because the theory behind ABA says that there isn't a human that you have to, because that's why you're there, to build the human. And that's at what point did you realize that you're autistic, and you're like, hey, I vibe with these autistic kids for a reason?
Well, it's very interesting, because I've always had the same stim as like when I was a little girl. Like I loved stim on like texture, and
I'm the same way.
I always need to move, right? I play with my hair, I play with other people's hair.
I
this
had a
day,
thing about booping people's noses for a really long time.
right.
I had to
Yeah,
really work to
right.
train that
Yeah.
out of myself because I
The-
had a friend in
yes,
college who was like,
me
"Ah,
too.
stop
Yeah.
that."
There's definitely that.
Anti-booping appliance. Yes.
I prefer to
Exactly.
play with other people's like hair and stuff. uh,
Yep.
so I've always had that. I used to do that to my brother, and probably that's why we don't get along very much because I like used to, without permission, would just stim on
Mm.
his like hair and stuff like that.
Yeah, that whole
Uh,
permission thing, it matters.
just like right. um, but so I got I decided to seek a diagnosis because I at that point our family was also seeking a diagnosis for our neurodivergent teen. So I was
Mm.
one of these parents who like
the
as we're
child to
filling out the stupid checklist,
yeah,
you have
the
this
child to
behavior, that
parent
behavior, like,
pipeline.
wait a
Mhm.
minute,
Mhm.
but I basically look for someone who can provide me with the diagnosis uh, in an affirming way. So that process of getting myself diagnosed was very empowering. It was very meaningful because I had to go back and talk to my best friend who knew me since I was 5 years old. I got to go back and ask to talk to my dad and my best friend and so on. So it was great. And then I would think back about the times that I failed in my life earlier, right? All the broken relationships, and everything just came together. It made sense to me. Career wise, I worked my way up to become a clinic supervisor for, at that point, the biggest ABA clinic in America, in
That
the
must have been
US.
an interesting clash there, because if your
Mhm.
goal is to fix the autism and you're like, but I am the autism, uh, how does that work out?
Well, at that point, so I just couldn't. I mean, my professional journey, when I made it to the top, uh, which is why I'm in the Bay Area, because I moved from Los Angeles to the Bay Area to open and run that clinic. But when you move your way to the top, you no longer actually, you know, I didn't get to sit on the floor and work with the kids, which
Mm.
I love and I was very good at. I wasn't very good at lying on behalf of other people, training 15 people to
Mhm.
prescribe. I could design programs, but then my struggle was to the training part was very difficult
Mhm.
because it just
Tell us about
the,
that, because
there
how do
was a
you?
disconnect,
Yes,
right? Like
yes.
I
Right,
couldn't
right.
I couldn't figure out uh I didn't realize that the therapists, we are also training these ABA therapists. They were just young college students like me, right? And basically the training required them to mask heavily
Right.
during
Yeah.
therapy. Everything was prescribed, right? We prescribe compliance to the clients, but we also have to comply
Right.
to the protocol and whoever was teaching us, and that was very hard for me because for me, when I work with my clients, I really have fun. Like we connected. Like how do you
How
teach
dare
that
you?
connection? That wasn't in the book anywhere.
How
How do
dare you,
you
madam? How
right?
dare you? How dare
Yeah.
you connect with human beings and have fun? Oh
And
my.
these,
God
I think
forbid.
I think to today ABA therapists, they don't think about this job as a career or it's just a temporary stop, right?
Mm.
So I think that's very sad
Yeah.
because you know like therapists really come and go. The high turnover rate I think that still happens today, in the applied behavioral analysis, like in just that kind of therapeutic landscape of training therapists. They're working with kids. They have to drive all over because everything's in home. I know that some clinics are center based, but there's still that high turnover. And why is that? I know because the masking issue, and just there is a huge disconnect at some point of you as a human being expected to be a game changer. But you don't know that. No one tells you need to be a game changer first. You have to be the of
Yeah.
best of yourself first.
More human than human.
No one. There was no teaching of self-regulation, co-regulation, none of that.
Well, and I would imagine
because again,
also,
it's all compliance.
I would imagine there would be a lot of moral injury also, especially when you see like just how distressed. Like I've seen some of the things where like the child's attachment object or source of safety like gets removed and becomes a prize that the child has to win back. And I would never be able to live with myself if I were doing that on purpose. Right. And so I would have to think that one of two things would happen, assuming the person is still in touch with their humanity and their moral center. Either they would change the pathway, right? And go quote unquote outside of the protocol, or they would absolutely burn themselves out because of that sense of moral injury inside.
Exactly. Right. So when I made it to the top, I had to do a million other things that have nothing to do with supporting and working directly with my clients. And I got very, very confused. You all know as autistic humans that we need to know why. If we don't know the why, we're not going to move an inch, right? You know that.
That is a fact.
That is a fact. My husband
said is a fact.
He's going to put that on my tombstone.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because I just don't know why. So if the senior therapist in charge of this, my client says you have to teach colors this way, and I tried to do it that way, and it didn't work. And I'm like, why do we have to teach it this way?
Right.
I have, because
why is this way important?
Because we are very curious.
I love that this right here is the central conflict between you and ABA, because ABA says, do it because I said so. And then you say, but why? And that is the ultimate autistic response to this. But
why? And by the way, if you can give me a legitimate why, I'll probably be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're making some bullshit up, frankly,
because I said so is not an answer.
That is not an answer. No.
Right. And also, once I work as a clinic supervisor, that I was also aware of what goes on behind the scene in terms of like the money management, it was such a big business to do this, right? You send therapists
capitalism
to go. I didn't know any of this.
No. Well, why would they tell you? Because it would make them less money.
Right. There's a whole series of articles and books on the whole autism industrial complex. No, we don't have time to get into the details of that right now, but if anybody's interested, my dear reader, if you ever want to see just how dark this gets, read up on the autism industrial complex, because it's a thing.
Yeah. No, it was just, I just couldn't handle it. I worked 50, 60 hours a
Mm.
week, and every night I had my head down and I was in tears every night. So I had to like walk away, and it was very hard to walk away from that, because it was pretty much my identity at that point, and I had to kind of just start again. I didn't know, do I really like working with kids? I was very, very confused, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just got trained in different things uh, once I left the clinic.
Which
And
is,
then,
in fact, an autism career pathway of, I'm just going to pick up all these different skills.
yeah, pretty much, because if something doesn't make sense to me, I would, and if I can find an answer, I will go for it, because I want to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly looking for a framework that would help me understand how to support my clients better. Well, at least that part I know I really love
Mm-hmm.
working with neurodivergent people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in ABA, we were trained, if you want to change a behavior, or this is your targeted behavior, this is the protocol, this is how you teach it, right? So I consider myself, once I move up as a senior therapist, I was the one writing all these how-tos,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I was very proud of myself for, like, I'm pretty open-minded. I'm very eclectic. I know how to like teach, toilet train someone in a different way, this and that. I
Mm-hmm.
had the little bit of freedom once I made it to the top. However, it was still very humbling to see when it was time for my client to try in the real life, they fall short.
Ooh.
Right.
Even even the kids who could blend in the classroom to the point where, if someone trained observed, they wouldn't be able to tell them apart, because that was the gold standard, is that your client can change and transform to the point that no one else can pick up the autism in them, right?
And that's a hell of a thing, to train someone to be invisible so that we are not burdens to others.
Right. Right. But
Yeah.
because we work at home, we see the exhaustion. I see that
Right.
when they come home, they go straight to the room, because I was part of these are not clients to me. I work with them at home. I talk to the parents from the point of view of, I'm also a parent, or, I really want to know, right? So the relationship that I built wasn't just with the client, but also with their caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
So when the mom said to me, well, I mean, I don't know, like, when he comes home and we're having dinner, he just didn't have any energy he just checks out, and I want to know, what is that? Am I contributing to this? What's going on? Am I making
Right.
my client depressed? Like, this is not right, because, school is supposed to be like, I mean, he functioned in school. So, I didn't know how much of a bandwidth stealer is when you're a neurodivergent student without
Right.
support in a school setting. I didn't know that until I have my own kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and until recently, the phrase "after school restraint collapse" wasn't even, that wasn't even a thing. Now it's been named. I am not remembering right now who named it that, but I think it's a really important construct to remember that, like, if you're spending all of your energy and all of your spoons to fit the neurotypical mold in school, when you get home, you're going to have nothing left.
Yeah.
Right. And then what comes home is an exhausted, dysregulated kid whose nervous system is on fire. And then parents wonder why their kid is acting out at home.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
school also acts like, well, everything's fine here, so
Yeah.
there's no problem as far as we're
They're fitting
concerned.
in.
Yeah,
Ex-
you must be a
and-
bad parent.
Exactly.
spoiling the
Right,
kid.
exactly.
You-
It
this and
must
that.
be the parents' fault. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, this is a whole child moving from system to system,
Yeah.
and different aspects of the system are pulling out different aspects of this child, also based on how the child has been trained,
Right.
right? But the child is the same child at home as at school. And
Yeah.
if we're seeing this like perfect presentation at school and then complete collapse at home, we have to think about that holistically. We can't think about it in a
Yeah.
segmented way.
Right. Right.
When
Well,
my
just
son
not accurate.
when my son
Yeah.
comes here after school, he's always dysregulated, and
Yeah.
we sometimes have to have cuddle time for about 20 minutes to
Oh.
re-regulate.
Beautiful.
Sometimes he'll come in, he doesn't want to speak, he just wants to put on his music and be by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when he comes in, he wants to rearrange his clock collection, but he absolutely needs time to
Yes.
re-regulate from all of this nonsense.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's important that parents understand this, and
Yeah.
especially if you're autistic
And
yourself.
support it actively.
Yes,
Right,
yes,
right,
exactly.
Right.
Because
Well, I think that people who are working with neurodivergent people, most of them are well-intentioned people,
yeah,
but
Yeah, I
they're
agree.
also very misinformed,
yeah,
Yes.
right? So I'll tell you the turning point, the day that I decided I'm going to leave all this behind,
yes,
I'm
yes.
going to walk away. So I worked with this client who is, how old was he? Like 10 years old. And he needed moderate type of support, but very much like eager to be more independent. So we all decided, well, let's work on going grocery shopping, right? Because he loved baking and doing stuff like that. And so he had the ABA therapy at home with me supervising the program. So we practice a lot at home, right? We practice money concept. We set up store at home. I mean, you name it. We practice and practice and practice, including the scripts of like, what do you say when you're about to pay for your groceries and stuff like that. So the day came for him to go grocery shopping with his lists that he made the lists, and Mom and I waited in the car. So we sent him in with money, with lists. Mom and I waited in the car for after 20 minutes we couldn't. That's
Right.
it. Like,
Right.
let's go see what happens after 20 minutes, because he only had 2 things on the list.
Mhm.
So, and we picked early Sunday morning because we knew that it would be quieter. So they were
the same reason
components-
I go shopping when there's nobody around, because
right. They were
shopping is the
components-
infinite hell.
Yeah, there were
Mhm.
components of this preparation that I think we were hitting it correctly somewhat.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Sure.
So we went in, we found him in front of an empty checkout line.
Mm.
This is why task analysis does
Oh.
not work. From that point on, I realized, man,
We didn't
it can't
cover
be
that
like
one
this.
variable of looking for a human. Oh my.
Right? So that was the time, like that was it.
Yeah.
That was the turning point that I realized, okay, there's something inherently wrong with expecting every desired behavior and breaking it down in the tiniest component, because there are just so many variables in this world.
It's as though you're a bottom-up processor. Fancy that. Go on.
Right.
No, it's just like that was the point. Like, okay, that's it. Like, I'm gonna look elsewhere, basically, right?
Mhm.
And then once I became a mom, I have my youngest is a very sensory specific eater.
Mm.
I
I love how you phrase that, sensory specific. Can you just throw picky eater out of the menu out of the lexicon and
Right.
say sensory specific instead.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Sorry. Please continue.
Yeah. So, we are, and Matt knows this, we have chicken nuggets from McDonald's when, to celebrate important times,
This is the way.
every birthday party, he has like some kind of breaded chicken meat.
Okay.
My son was here for a week after Christmas, and just about every day we had either fresh chicken nuggets or chicken nuggets we bought the previous day and were in the refrigerator, and occasionally a frozen pizza, but mostly chicken nuggets every day because they're predictable. They're the same size. We know exactly what sensory experience to expect because this is the thing about processed food. It doesn't have this incongruity between
it doesn't
experiences.
have the variability.
Yeah. You have a chicken nugget. You know that a chicken nugget will taste like a chicken nugget. You know it'll feel like a chicken nugget, and you're able to go on with life. That's one less detail that you have to worry about. This is a specific food item. You ingest a food, and then you go on with life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I try to implement behavioral methods to expand the palate. When my son was younger, and he was like, I'm not we used to like give him Sprite to try a tiny piece of, a slightly different type of food. But I learned very quickly a no is a no.
Yeah.
And that will never change, right? So I don't put zucchini into a cupcake. Seriously, I
No.
don't.
I swear to God, if I bit into a cupcake and found zucchini, I would fight somebody. That is an offense. Oh my God, man.
Wait, no, there are books you can get to do this kind of baking and cooking, and I may not be able to taste
How to
it,
Piss
but
Off Your
my
Child,
son will.
Volume 2. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So therefore, parenting neurodivergent kids, I know, and it was a humbling experience for me that I had to start over because
and that right. Oh, sorry about that, but that right there is a good point. We should end today's episode with that. Will you be able to stick around and record another episode? Because that would be an ideal part 2 of everything I was taught versus everything that I needed to know, and
what I do now.
yeah, exactly. Because you are your current career in an autism career pathway, as it were, is a complete 180 from that thing that you were doing.
It's a complete 180. It's always a complete 180 for me.
Yes.
But I love talking about, the supporting an autistic person throughout the lifespan of this person.
Which is,
our role as parents.
So let's turn off this episode here, and we will say an abrupt goodbye to all the listeners, because this is about where we go. And then tune in next week for part 2, where we say, here's the rest of the life, and here's what you really, really should be doing. Because, honest to God, if there ever was a perfect cliffhanger, that's it.
Right. This is it. Right.
Yeah. So we will see you all next week on the Autistic Voice Project. Have a good one.
Have a good one.